Hey there, he is, Gunner the Wonder Dog. He is back with us, and he is actually, look at how he's such a dynamic personality. He's exciting. He's all charged up and ready for the show here. Actually, he's just happy to be taking a nap up here. The more times we put him up on the table, it seems like the less concerned he is. The first shows that Gunner was in, he was just shaking like a little leaf because I think he thought it was the exam table.
Yeah.
And so, but now he seems to be very, very happy to just be with us. So, we're talking about allergies today on Tales from the Road, and we've gone through. There's three main groups.
Right.
First one was the flea allergy
allergies.
group, a really important set of allergies that dogs and cats have. What's the next one we're going to talk about?
The next one will be food allergies.
Okay.
So we're going to work on those. Now, these are not going to be the typical sort of like shellfish, peanut, anaphylactic type reactions that you think of with food allergy. These are going to be, they're a little more slower onset. They're take longer to develop, and these are the things they see every day. So developing into something they see every day. Typically, we're going to see more problems in the ears and the rears. So ears and rears, think food. So anal glands, ear infections, stuff around the rear end that's not flea, we think about for food. And most common allergens that we're going to see are going to be beef and dairy, chicken, wheat, corn, and some soy. We'll see that as well.
Okay.
So,
do they get these allergies? Is it just strictly a matter of just finding a diet ultimately that that agrees with them, or how do you deal with this? Or do you find that people are, oh yeah, I feed him X, dog food, but you find out later that no, but they're feeding him X dog food, which should be fine, but they're also feeding him table scraps, something under the table that they're really not admitting to, and then you find out that those peanut butter sandwiches under the table are what's causing the problem.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So there are a couple of ground rules about food allergies. We test them and find them by doing feeding trials. There are some blood tests and things that are out there, but they are just not accurate enough. They don't correlate well with what we actually see. So they're not valuable, good tests to do for feeding trials, or for feeding food testing. So we do the feeding trials. Now, probably the second thing that I hear in most of my either second opinions or new allergy patients is, we've tried everything. He doesn't have a food allergy because we've tried them all. But there are some pitfalls into feeding trials. And the biggest one is going to be not doing it long enough. And the second biggest thing is going to be not actually doing a true feeding trial. So chewable medications, whatever you're putting the pill into to feed them, all those things count. And so we have to be very, very specific during those 8 to 12 weeks of doing a feeding trial.
Right, so that you can eliminate things that might be skewing the test one way or another.
Exactly, yeah, it's an elimination diet. Now, there are a couple of other things that we also have to mention about foods, and that is that we can have some cross reactions. So some patients
what do you mean, what's a cross reaction?
Where you'll be feeding them one thing, but they're allergic to one thing, you feed them another, but they still react to it. So this would be a dog or a cat who's allergic to chicken, and we're using duck as their feeding trial diet, and they still cross-react.
I got
so
you.
Some proteins are close enough that they will still do that.
Okay, so you've got a similarity.
So you got to be careful. Yeah.
Okay.
The other thing that we're finding very challenging now is that the marketing people have done a really good job in promoting these hypoallergenic diets or these feeding trial diets, or these are better than others because those others have those evil allergens in them. And really, the vast majority of dogs that are not allergic to these ingredients can eat them, and they're fine, and they're good, they're nutritious.
Right.
But the dogs who have allergies and cats who have allergies to these things can't feed them. It doesn't make those foods bad, they just can't eat them.
Right.
Okay, peanut butter is a staple at my house, but my son's friend can't have it. So the other thing we have to remember too is because it's those can get marketed that way and perceived that way, a lot of people think that if they feed those things, then their pet won't get allergies.
Gotcha.
Remember, they're allergies that we develop to things we see over time. So if your pet's predisposed to allergies, they're going to get them to whatever you feed them to. So they're not a preventive feeding diet.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, in the case of a feeding trial, if your dog has already or cat has already developed an allergy, for starters, what are you going to see it on the skin in general?
Yep, going to see it on the skin, and that's where we're going to get into our ears and our rears.
Okay.
And sometimes up around the face, just in the face in general as well.
Okay.
So there's Gunnar modeling his
All right.
food allergy sites there.
Okay.
And we have a couple pictures of some of the cats that will do this too.
Take a look here. Now that's food allergy at work there.
Yeah, that's food. That patient has some food allergy. Now there are a lot of other reasons to have that barbered ball belly in the kitties, but it's a very common reason too. So I mean, they do better than surgical blade clippers. They really take that hair off.
Wow.
And then we got another one of a kitty face. There it is.
Okay.
So all that scabbing up above the eyes, between the eye and the ear. This cat had a horrible ear infection, chronic ear infection.
Right.
And it was so miserable. It was just scratching itself raw up there.
Right. Yeah. So that's from the cat rubbing up there, up in that area. Now, Now in a feeding trial, if the new food is actually alleviating the problem, how long does that take?
It can take up to 8 to 12 weeks to really see the full effect.
So feeding trials are not a shortcut.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. In fact, we're usually running them while we're doing some other things.
Oh, okay.
Because it takes so long.
All right. So what's the other area of allergies that we need to talk about?
The third group is the environmental allergies.
Okay.
So this is basically everything else in the world besides fleas and food.
Okay.
So molds, pollens, grass, dust mites.
Are we keeping you up there, Gunnar? I'm
Gunner's
just thinking.
You see, he's just, it's wearying just to hear about it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Gunnar is an environmental allergy patient. And so as soon as he hears us talking about that, he says, oh no.
Oh no, I don't want to hear him anymore. Right.
So, but these guys usually going to be in the feet. And so far this spring, Gunnar's been doing pretty well. But we'll start to see some redness and hair loss around the feet. And some of this rust-colored staining is usually indicative of some of the other secondary infections we get.
Right.
But the biggest thing about environmental allergies, they get worse over time. They can be to indoor and outdoor things.
Okay.
So you can have year-round environmental allergies if you're exposed to them year-round. And there are things that are in foods that are actually environmental allergies, particularly the storage mites. So it's not actually the protein of the food. It's actually just the fact that it's a dry food and it has grain mites or storage mites in it.
Okay, gotcha.
So we can see those. Antihistamines are okay. They don't do really great in dogs.
Right.
Far and away, we need to find the source of the allergen.
But don't toss your dog a handful of Benadryl unless you've gone to the vet.
Exactly.
Right, yes,
yeah.
right.
No, that's all
not
crossover.
Not a good idea.
So we got to find the source and control it, and then we got to eliminate their exposure to it. So using baby wipes on the feet, doing therapeutic bathing, all that stuff cuts their exposure. And then if we can do things to actually change the way their immune system sees the world, or use immunotherapy with the injections, allergen injections.
Now, what things around the home would be allergens that they would pick up? I mean, not necessarily in the food, but in other areas.
Mold, dust mites.
Dust mites.
Pollens.
What about cleaning supplies,
grasses.
things that people use?
Those can be irritants. They're not usually allergic to them.
Okay.
But they can be irritants and they react to them. They can have sensitivities to them.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it sounds like that there are, you really have a broad range of possibilities and a broad range of possible therapies.
Exactly. And the thing that I tell all my new allergy patients is there are as many allergy therapies as there are allergy patients.
There you go.
So
that's because even
no cut and dried.
You might have two Dalmatians and they may look alike, but they're different little creatures, so they may have a different reaction. So, okay, great. Well, we're going to be right back with more from Tales from the Road, including some of your questions when we come back, so stay with us. Got a question or a comment for Dr. Jill Windy? Get in touch at tales@rvnn.tv or leave a voicemail at 877-578-RVNN, extension 705. Hey, why not email a photo of you and your pet on the RV trail? We love pictures, and we might just use it in an upcoming episode. Follow RV Newsnet on Facebook and Twitter, and you can receive text messages to alert you when we're streaming live by texting RVNN to 72727. That way, you can join us live in the chat room, ask questions, and become part of the RV Newsnet family. Remember, any photos or other material submitted to us become the property of RV Newsnet and cannot be returned. Today's show is brought to you by Angie's List, where you'll find thousands of unbiased reports and reviews about service companies in your area. Whether you're looking for a roofer, plumber, house cleaner, dentist, or even a doctor, Angie's List members share their experiences with each other so that you can choose the service company that's right for your job. Companies can't pay to be on Angie's List, and the reviews come from people just like you who have had experience with the companies mentioned. To find out more, go to rvnn.tv and click on the Angie's List ad.